God as creator. The opening words of Scripture, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," are among the most profound ever written. With these words, Genesis 1:1 sets the stage for everything that follows in the Bible. Before there was time, matter, or life, there was God. He is eternal, self-existent, and sovereign. Creation begins not with a clash of forces, not with chance, but with a deliberate act of divine will. Genesis 1 and 2 are not merely a record of events. They are a revelation of God's character, His power, and His purpose. Let's look deeper into what these chapters reveal. Number 1, God's power in creation. Genesis 1 describes a God who speaks, and by His word, worlds come into being. Over and over, we read the phrase, "And God said." That simple phrase appears 10 times in this chapter, and each time creation responds. When God said, "Let there be light," there was light. His word is creative power. Psalm 33 verse 6 says, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and by the breath of His mouth all their host." This shows us something vital about God. He does not struggle to create. He does not need raw materials or tools. He simply speaks and reality forms. This is the same creative word we later see in John 1:1. "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Jesus Christ Himself is revealed as the divine Word through whom all things were made. So when Genesis says God said, we are witnessing the Son, the eternal Word, at work in creation. Creation, then, is not just an act of power, but an expression of relationship within the Godhead, Father, Son, and Spirit, working in perfect unity. Number 2, God's order and design. Genesis 1 also reveals a God of order. Creation unfolds in a structured pattern, from formlessness to fullness. The first 3 days form the environments. Day 1, light and darkness. Day 2, sky and waters. Day 3, land and vegetation. Then the next 3 days fill those environments. Day 4, sun, moon, and stars. Day 5, fish and birds. Day 6, animals and humans. This is no accident. God is showing us His divine order. He forms and then He fills. There is rhythm, intention, and harmony in His work. This pattern speaks to His wisdom, that all creation is designed with purpose and balance. The structure of Genesis 1 counters the ancient pagan myths that saw creation as the result of chaos, violence, or accident. The Bible declares instead that creation is born from divine peace, order, and goodness. Number 3, God's goodness in creation. After each act, God looks at what He has made and declares, "It is good." And after He creates humanity, He declares it very good. This goodness reflects God's own nature. He is not just powerful, He is kind. Everything that comes from Him bears the mark of His benevolence. Creation, in its original state, was a perfect expression of God's goodness. No corruption, no decay, no death. Romans 1:20 later reminds us that God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. That means creation itself is a kind of sermon, a visible witness to the invisible God. Every sunrise, every ocean wave, every breath we take declares His goodness. Number 4, humanity as God's image. The creation of humanity is the climax of Genesis 1. Verse 26 says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.'" Notice the plural, "let us." This reflects the relational nature of God, the triune fellowship of Father, Son, and Spirit. Human beings are created as the image bearers of God, not divine themselves, but reflections of His moral, spiritual, and relational nature. Being made in God's image gives humanity inherent worth. Every person, regardless of background or status, carries divine dignity. This truth lays the foundation for all biblical ethics. How we treat one another, how we care for creation, and how we understand our identity. In Genesis 2, the focus narrows from the cosmos to the garden. Here we see the personal side of creation. God forms man from the dust of the ground. He shapes him with his hands. Then he breathes into his nostrils the breath of life, a deeply intimate act. The Hebrew word for breath is ruach, also translated as spirit. Human life, therefore, is not just physical, it is spiritual, animated by the very Spirit of God. God then places Adam in the Garden of Eden, a place of beauty, peace, and purpose. He gives him responsibility to cultivate and to care for creation. Work, then, is not a curse, but a calling. It was part of God's good design long before sin entered the world. When God creates woman, he forms her from Adam's side, not his head or his feet, symbolizing equality and partnership. Together, man and woman reflect the fullness of God's image, unity and diversity, harmony and relationship. Number 5, God's rest, the completion of creation. Genesis 2:2 says, "By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested." God did not rest because he was weary. He rested to set a pattern, to sanctify time, to establish rhythm, to teach humanity to pause and recognize his sovereignty. The Sabbath rest is a declaration that creation belongs to God and that he is in control. It's an invitation for us to stop striving and delight in what God has made. Rest is not idleness, it is worship. Genesis 1-2 answers the deepest questions of life. Who made us? God, the eternal creator. Why are we here? To reflect his image and steward his world. What is our value? Rooted in being created by him and for him. When we forget these truths, we lose our sense of identity and purpose. But when we return to Genesis, we rediscover who we are. Creatures made in love, living in a world designed for fellowship with our Maker. Even though sin later corrupted this perfect creation, the New Testament reveals that Jesus Christ came to restore what was lost. Colossians 1:16-17 says, "All things were created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." Through Christ, the Creator becomes Redeemer, and one day he will make all things new again.